A bunch of news coming out with renewals, reboots, some streaming information, and we have 6 reviews for you right now. Hey everybody, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my TV news and reviews for the week. We have 6 shows to get to on the review side of things, including a new game show on GSN called The People Puzzler. We've got some Netflix stuff, Pretend It's a City, and Fate, the Winx Saga. We've got Secrets of Sulphur Springs over on Disney Channel, not Disney Plus, Disney Channel, and as well Flack and Everyone is Doing Great on Hulu and Amazon. So let's talk about all of this stuff, but first it's time for news. We have a bunch of stuff to get to now that sort of productions are back in the swing of things, even in LA, and studios are sort of making decisions for the rest of the year. We've got a lot to talk about. So let's first get into the renewals. Blacklist over on NBC, renewed for season 9. I thought after I kept hearing in season 4 or 5, it was okay, renewed for one final season coming up. And it just keeps going. James Spader's still involved in that. And I think what might have helped this decision is that you can stream Blacklist on Netflix right now, and in 2020, that entire year, it was ranked 9th for acquired series. So, of course, Office is ranked number 1, which is no longer there, but for 2020 it was. I don't know what else would have been on the list. Maybe some of the CW shows, Riverdale or something. But The Blacklist, number 9. So, obviously, people finding it on Netflix, and maybe that will help it in the new season as well. Over on NBC as well, with their Peacock app, Saved by the Bell for season 2. That is not really a surprise. Ton of fanfare about that first season. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's interesting because Dustin Diamond, who played Screech, does not appear anywhere in that first season, but he was just recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer that he is fighting, and as a result, a lot of his ex-co-stars, who really, they all had a falling out big time years ago, but, obviously, when times are dire like this, people will reach out, and so many of them have reached out to Dustin Diamond, and, who knows, maybe we will see a cameo role from him in season 2. We don't know. One last one from NBC. The Weakest Link. Jane Lynch hosts this, and I wasn't sure what to think at first about her sort of snarkiness as the host, but I love it. I watch it every week, so that is a welcome addition for me. I love, one positive thing in the COVID shutdown of a lot of shows is we're getting a ton of new game show content on major networks, which ABC's been filling their summer schedules with for years, but now NBC and ABC are really, really banking on a lot of these game shows throughout the year, which I really love. All right, so other things renewed. Snowpiercer for season 3 on TNT. That just started season 2 a week ago, and it was actually renewed for season 2, I think, before season 1 even aired. So they're really, aboard the Snowpiercer. I was going to say Snowpiercer train, but it takes place on a train. So, I didn't mean the pun there, but yeah, get aboard the Snowpiercer train, I guess. But I have not seen any of season 2 yet. In fact, I didn't even finish season 1. But what I saw, I really loved. I think I gave it an A. And so that's great news. I'll at one point have to binge that. Over at Apple TV Plus, Tehran, renewed for season 2. This is their first non-English language show to get a renewal. And this is one that I feel like, I don't know what my exact grade was, but I feel like it was in that B+ range. I really liked this show when I reviewed it in the fall. So good to see that will be returning for season 2 at some point. And then I think the biggest no-brainer of the week, Bridgerton, will be renewed for season 2 over at Netflix. I mean, this show is just a juggernaut in terms of, everyone talking about it. everyone, getting into it. And I don't think, every few months we get one now, especially with the shutdown. First it was Tiger King, and then the Michael Jordan Last Dance, and then the Queen's Gambit, and now Bridgerton, around Christmas time, everybody was talking about. In fact, it has been seen, season 1, by 63 million households, according to Netflix data. Now, they count if you watch 2 minutes of an episode as a watch. So I don't know what exactly that number translates to in the real world of who actually watched all the episodes. I don't know. I think that's 63 billion households at least sampled 2 minutes of the show, which to me I don't think means that much really, but obviously a lot of people at least interested. But it is constantly in Netflix's top 10, has been for over a month, which, I think the last thing to do that was Queen's Gambit. So makes sense that they would have a season 2 for that. All right, so no cancellations actually, just renewals this week, which is rare. So over to some streaming things. So Freaks and Geeks is now available to watch on Hulu, and I urge you all to do so. I was doing individual Freaks and Geeks episode reviews and recaps, and a lot of them actually outpaced the timing of the show. The show is maybe 45, 48 minutes, and some of our videos would go over an hour because there's so much to unpack with this show, so much to dissect. If you've never seen Freaks and Geeks, I urge you to check it out on Hulu. And if you want to dive deeper, I watched all the commentary for the episode, so I have, some background information about a lot of different things, and, casting and different things that the director was thinking and whatever. So if you like the show, do consider checking out my Freaks and Geeks reviews, and they are all up on my Dan Reviews It channel. Modern Family coming to Peacock and Hulu exclusively for streaming. Nobody yet has had the entire run of Modern Family. Hulu would run the current season episodes, but nothing further back than that. But now starting on February 3rd, both Peacock and Hulu will stream Modern Family in full. Now, if you have Peacock, the paid version, you can stream everything there. However, if you have the free Peacock and don't actually subscribe, which currently I do, although I should probably subscribe at some point because they do have a lot of really good shows, but they will rotate 12 episodes in order at a time, starting with the pilot on February 3rd. I don't know if it's 12 a week, or I don't know what the timetable is, but if you don't have a paid subscription to Hulu, you just have the app or whatever, you can watch 12 episodes at a time of Modern Family. So that's also still pretty cool, I think. I really like the Peacock's getting into that. Yes, if you pay more, you get some extra stuff and some exclusive shows and whatever, but if you just want to watch reruns of 30 Rock or Parks and Rec, you just get the free Peacock app, and there it is. All right, so a couple of upcoming deals, I guess maybe we could talk about. So Serial, the very popular podcast that's been out for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years maybe, season 3, which aired in 2018 as a podcast, is going to get the TV treatment. HBO has bought the rights to a mini-series based on season 3 of Serial, so that's kind of interesting. I don't know, we had Limetown, I guess, on, was that Facebook Live? Or Facebook Watch, whatever. That was originally a podcast, but we don't see too many podcasts moving into the, TV or movie area. And obviously Serial is probably the most popular scripted podcast. Scripted in the sense that it's not just like an interview show like Joe Rogan or Adam Carolla. It's not made up. It's based on, well, maybe it is made up. Truth be told, I don't watch it. Or listen to it. I don't really do a lot of the true crime stuff. So, actually, come to think of it, maybe it is all scripted, and not because it's, a true life crime show. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, but either way, you can watch it on HBO coming at some point. I guess they just sort of inked the deal on that, so nothing's been filmed or. They haven't done casting or anything. Fox is dipping down again into the well of already produced content, because, of course, all the networks are scrambling to get some produced content in the wake of the pandemic. So they have bought Canadian legal drama Diggstown. They bought the first 2 seasons. It was 6 episodes apiece, so there's 12 episodes total. My guess would be they're going to probably run them as one season and run all 12 in a row. Now, if you have BET Plus, this is already run on that. So it's actually already aired in Canada and on BET Plus. So Fox is going to be the third place to air this thing, and no date yet for that, but I would assume probably sometime in the spring since it's already been produced and all of that. And then finally, Demi Lovato is going to star in an NBC single-camera comedy called Hungry, which will be her first main TV role since Sunny with a Chance back, which, I don't know, ended like 10 years ago. She's done, obviously, some things since then. She was a judge on, I think, The X Factor, and she had a recurring role on the last season of NBC's Will and Grace, but this will be her return to a starring role with Hungry, and it is based around a food support group, and she has been very open about her own personal eating disorder struggles, so she could bring some authenticity to that. I like Demi Lovato. I love her music. Her acting is okay. I can take it or leave it, but this may be a good project for her. And then in other sort of network news, NBCSN, which is the NBC Sports Network, is going to shut down this year, if you have not heard that already. But because NBC has so many different networks in its portfolio, this could be a big assist for USA, which has been a top 5 cable entertainment channel for over 20 years. And what that means is, not counting like Fox News, CNN, those are more information or news networks. Entertainment, obviously is under a different umbrella. So USA, top 5 cable entertainment channel for over 20 years, including 14 years straight as the number 1 cable entertainment channel. I would assume that was the years they were doing like Monk and Suits and Burn Notice and, all their big shows. But they've been looking to present many more hours of live sports and events, and is already been shifting away from scripted programs, and will start running NHL and NASCAR later this year. So with NBCSN shutting down, I don't know exactly what they ran there, but they're basically going to port all of the stuff that they had contracts with over to USA, which honestly I think would give it a wider audience anyway. I don't know anybody that watches NBCSN. I didn't even know what it was really until a few weeks ago when they announced they were shutting it down. But I'm not a sports guy, so it kind of makes sense. And then for this week in reboots, so Harry Potter is in the works for a live-action series at HBO Max. There's no details really yet about what that will consist of or what era of Harry Potter it will consist of. My guess would be they're not going to just redo the movies. My guess is they're going to tell us different stories, but it's called Harry Potter, not a Hogwarts live series. So I don't know, maybe it is about adult Harry Potter, or maybe it is some sort of retelling of the movies, which I think would be a big mistake. I feel like the movies covered everything pretty well, and are generally regarded as wonderful. And of course you can't do anything without the approval and I guess consultant nature of the author, J.K. Rowling, who obviously has had her run-ins lately with some bad press. She's really down on the trans movement. People not really digging that. So I don't know. It will be interesting to see if that is affected at all, because her name, by nature of the contract and the property, does have to at least be on there as either an executive producer or at the very least based on the works of J.K. So she's going to get a payday for something with that. So it'll be interesting to see if people tune in or out because of that. HBO Max does own the exclusive rights to the streaming versions of the films right now. They were on Peacock at first, I guess, when that first launched, but then when HBO Max launched, they had an exclusive contract. They will return to Peacock later this year, but from what I read, there's no specific date for that yet. My guess would be HBO Max has the exclusive for 1 year, which would be up in, I think they launched in June, right? So maybe Peacock will then start running the Potter movies then. But that will be interesting. And then the other This Week in Reboots is a true reboot, not from a movie like Harry Potter, but America's Most Wanted is coming back to its home channel, Fox. It's been off the air completely for about 9 years, but last we saw it was on Lifetime. But it ran on Fox, one of the original shows actually on Fox. Not that very first lineup of I think there was like 4 shows that premiered all at the same time. And most of the first year shows, other than Married with Children and Jump Street, most of the first year shows didn't make it more than that first year. But it came on in year number 2, 1988, and ran till 2011. Show ran a long time, 20, what would that be, 23 years, and then another year on Lifetime. But John Walsh was the host of that. He is not involved in this, but he did release a statement, giving it his blessing and being so excited that it will be returning. And it makes so much sense. True crime is immensely popular right now, and even better if we can help the cops track down the killer, right? Most true crime things, the killer's already found or, dead or whatever. And America's Most Wanted, of course, famous for their reenactments and then the tip line and all of that. I remember it well. The number would change every single year. When it first went on the air, it was 1-800-CRIME-88, and then it was Crime-89, Crime-90. I watched America's Most Wanted for years and years, and really enjoyed it. Elizabeth Vargas will be the host of the new version, which starts in March. And she, of course, has been, doing 2020 for 15 years, and she was an anchor for a while on World News Tonight, and she's done a lot of things for ABC News, so now shifting over to Fox for America's Most Wanted. And it makes a lot of sense with COVID as well. Again, a lot of networks looking for outside content, and Fox certainly, could use it because they don't have a parent company like ABC has Disney or CBS has Paramount to just, let's give you a few movies you can run for movie nights on your channel. Fox doesn't have that anymore because Disney bought the Fox, movie studio, so it's not really part of the game anymore. But, all right, that is the news. Let's move into the reviews because we have 6 of them this week, and we want to keep this show moving here. So let's start on Netflix with what is currently their #1 show. It's called Fate, the Winx Saga. And this is based on the Nickelodeon animated series Winx Club that ran, I think, 8 years. I don't believe it runs anymore. But it was a big hit over there on Nickelodeon for a long time. And this version of the show ages up the characters dramatically. They're pretty much kids on the Nickelodeon show, and here they are brooding teenagers. But this follows Bloom, who is played here by Abigail Cowan. And basically she is, navigating the other world here. She's adjusting to life. She has 2 normal human parents. And she's, got to learn a little bit about herself and her magical powers as we progress here. She is the first-year student at the school Alphea, and that is like the Hogwarts of this universe. And she is a fire fairy and a changeling. Those are her sort of main things. And we meet a handful of people in these first few episodes. I don't really know any of these actresses, so I'm not even going to talk about them. But basically, everybody has their own power, and they're all sort of going through the throes of puberty whilst trying to, rein in their powers and figure out their powers and be students and whatever. This is a very, very generic show. And it is very reminiscent, and not in a good way, of everything that's on the CW for young adults. It's like Nancy Drew, and instead of, a child detective, now Nancy Drew is this hot 17-year-old, and she's also bisexual or a lesbian or something, and then, she goes and solves the crimes and then has the sex. This is a lot of everything in this show reminds me of that type of style and genre that, is, I get it, it's hot for the time, but look, there's a reason that the CW shows appeal to a very, very certain core audience, and really nobody outside that. I like some of the shows they put on. I watched Riverdale for a year or two, but even that, I grew up on Archie comics, and the CW version made it this murder mystery, and then it became like a supernatural murder mystery, and all this crazy stuff started happening. I had to give up on it, and I'm a huge Archie fan, so that's saying a lot. But look, I have no relationship to the Winx Club. I never watched it. I barely knew what it was, but I'd heard of it, so when I saw this come up on Netflix, I did think, okay, well, I at least vaguely know that that's a property that's already been in existence, but I didn't realize that they were going to age the characters up about 8 years until they're 16 and 17-year-olds. And by the way, casting like the CW as well. These all, most of these people look like they're 25. But everything that happens here is just so very generic young adult type of thing. We've seen it in everything from Divergent to the Maze Runner to Batwoman over on the CW as well. A young woman, coming into her own, figuring out what her powers can do, but she's also shy and she's also trying to look for a man and this and that. I will say, this show is getting slandered by the critics. Last time I looked on Rotten, it was in the 30% range for critics, and not that much higher for audience. I think maybe in the 50% range. I think the 30% is a little harsh, because I do think that although it's generic, it's acted pretty well for a show like this, and there were a couple of characters, sadly not the main character, Bloom, but some of the side characters, I definitely was a little more interested in getting to know them and their story and how they fit in with this whole school. So I can give it a few points for that, but overall, this is just very, very generic. There's not much to really hook you in if you've seen more than one or two young adult things, movie or TV wise in your life. But I guess maybe the plan was get all the kids who were young when Winx Club came out, who are now 18, 19, 20, and give them this. So I guess I don't know if it's the same characters from the original or not, but give them, I guess, something to still be able to relate to. Oh yeah, I remember this show when I was 6 and I watched it on Nickelodeon, and now I'm 20 and oh, it's just so great. I guess maybe that's what they're going for, but judging by the audience response on Rotten, that might not be true either. It might be blasphemous for people who liked the original show. I don't know. So whatever the intention is, I don't think this show really has worked out very well. I think it's very bland and very generic, other than a few side characters that I think are interesting. I don't think there's much here that we haven't seen many, many times before, and much better done. So I leave Fate the Winx Saga with a C-. Up next, we're going to talk about Flack, which is over on Amazon Prime. Now, this is an interesting show because, all right, so Season 1 already aired in 2019, and it was on Pop TV, and it was also aired overseas. But Pop got out of the streaming biz once Schitt's Creek was over, and One Day at a Time they got canceled. So they moved all of their existing shows around. So Season 2 of Flack is going to air on Amazon Prime at some point. But it's not up yet. I don't even know if it's filmed yet or not. But in preparation for that, now the second, I guess it has been filmed because actually the UK already ran Season 2. It just never ran in the States yet. So at some point, I guess this year, Amazon is going to give us Season 2 of Flack. But they put up Season 1 about a week ago in preparation for that. Basically to say, hey, if you've never seen this show before or never heard of it, here it is. You can check it out before Season 2 drops. And they're really advertising it a lot. Every time I turn on my Fire Stick, it's on the home screen. So, and in this, Anna Paquin plays Robin, who is a PR executive. She's American, but she's living in London, so most of her clients are British. And she's got to, work her PR magic, get some people out of some sticky situations, and also get out unscathed herself. But however, she's got her own set of problems, as you could imagine. She, is great at her job, but she's got a bit of a drug habit and a bit of a, whoring around habit. And so, she's got to get her own mess and life together. We also see Genevieve Angelson here as Robin's sister Ruth, and Sophia Okonedo as Caroline, who is the head of the PR firm that she works for. And I watched the first 2 episodes of this. I think there's 6 that are up currently on Amazon Prime for season 1. And, I like Anna Paquin. I did not actually follow her career when she was a young girl, like when she was doing The Pianist and stuff like that. And I didn't watch True Blood. So I know her actually mainly from Veep, which she is fantastic on. And I guess I did see Almost Famous. All right, so I've seen, I guess, a few of her things. But yeah, I would say I most know her from more of her more recent. Oh, and you know what? I'm not even thinking of her. She wasn't in Veep. She was that's Anna Chumsky from My Girl, which I have seen. So she actually, The Affair. That's the show. Okay, yeah, okay. There you go. The Affair is where I know her from. But anyway, not a fan of True Blood, so I don't know a lot of her earlier work and maybe more famous work. But I think she does a great job here. She is, really. This is a dark comedy, and she can certainly be funny. But you do feel, kind of bad for this woman because her life really is kind of, spiraling out of control, and she's got to pick up the pieces of her clients who are also spiraling out of control. And there's a show we're going to talk about a little bit later in this episode as well. But there is something about the debaucherous, depraved person that either works or it doesn't. I think it's largely based on how the character is written. And in the show we're going to talk about later, they're not written very well at all. And you don't root for them. Here, I wanted this gal Robin to succeed. I really wanted her to get her life together and figure it out. But it is also sort of nice watching this glorious mess of a person, because she's also excellent at her job. She's great at cleaning other people's messes up, not so good working on herself. Classic trope. It's what made Frasier work too. The psychiatrist whose own life is constantly falling apart. It's definitely a dark comedy in that area. It's not of the the laugh out loud knee slapper variety. You definitely are cringing at times, and not everything is working because it's such a mess. But she is a very well written character. The glorious mess type character, and Paquin plays her very well. There's no doubt about that. So I can see why Amazon wanted to, enlighten people that this does exist before they put season 2 up at some point. So I will leave Flack with a B. So let's move on to The Secrets of Sulphur Springs. This is on Disney Channel, and it is a new episode every weekend. And basically, it is about this kid, Preston. Or Griffin actually is the character. Preston Oliver is his real name. But he is this 12-year-old kid whose family just moved into this old dilapidated hotel called the Tremont. And it is supposedly, everybody in the town knows this, haunted by Savannah Dillon, the ghost of this girl who died 30 years ago. Or, well, disappeared if nothing else. Maybe she didn't die, maybe she did. But if she's a ghost, I guess she died. But his new best friend, Harper, this gal played by Kylie Curran, whose mom does not want her to have anything to do with this family or this hotel, she and Griffin become friends, and they discover a portal together in the first episode, which takes them back in time, which they hope to use to their advantage to figure out what happened to Savannah. And they even see Griffin's dad as a preteen himself back 30 years ago. And so I actually watched did I watch 3 episodes of that? I watched at least 2, and then I think I didn't watch the third one because it was like 4 in the morning, but I really kind of wanted to because I really wanted to see what happened. This is a great show. I really am interested in this show. I think it is very scary for young kids. So it surprised me a little bit it's on Disney Channel. But, it reminds me a lot of, Goosebumps, which I know that was Nickelodeon, not Disney Channel. But, Goosebumps was very, very scary. And I think it was certainly for more older kids, 8 and up certainly which a lot of shows on Nickelodeon were for really all ages, like SpongeBob or something, but, or Rugrats. But Goosebumps really had an edge to it. It had a darkness to it. And here, these are not standalone episodes like Goosebumps was. It is, a thread that you want to follow along with every week to figure out the mystery of this Savannah girl. And maybe if it gets to season 2, there will be a different mystery. I don't know. But for now, it's all about figuring out what's up with Savannah. But it's dark. It's very dark. I am surprised it's on the Disney Channel. It seems like maybe it would have made more sense for Disney Plus, actually, because it does skew a little older, and you can sort of set your preferences on Disney Plus for, I think it's either 6 or 8 years old as the cutoff for like watching more, adult things or whatever. But I think the acting is really good from pretty much everybody, but these two leads are very good together. They have good chemistry, and the reactions from the kid Oliver are, I think, pretty realistic. To if this was happening to you in real life, I think you'd be like, what's going on? They seem very authentic, like he is in the moment. So I think those things are cool. This is a nice foray for kids to not necessarily get too freaked out. Like, there's some recent movies that have been like that. The Goosebumps movie actually is a bit reminiscent of that. I think House with the Clock on Its Wall is actually too scary for kids before they hit double digits. I think that's literally, I think it should have been rated PG-13. I was very, I don't know if I was very scared by it, but I was sort of horrified thinking about taking my 9-year-old nephew to see that movie. Because it was a bit frightening. But I don't know if it's quite on that level, but adding the supernatural element, adding the time travel element, it really gives this show a lot of ideas to play with, and I liked that about it. And I like that, it is a young person's sort of supernatural mystery show. If you're too young for Buffy or you're too young for Supernatural, I think this is a good foray into that arena, and I don't think it will give kids nightmares unless they are real young, but I really enjoyed this show a lot. I'm interested to see where it goes, to be completely honest, so I will keep up and watch the rest of these episodes. Secrets of Sulphur Springs, for me, gets an A-. Next, we're going to talk about Everyone is Doing Great over on Hulu. And this is sort of the show I was alluding to when I was talking about Flack. This is about these dudes, Seth and Jeremy, who are two actors from One Tree Hill that I'm not really familiar with. I never watched One Tree Hill, but James Lafferty and Stephen Coletti. James plays Jeremy and Stephen plays Seth. And they are basically two actors who were on a successful vampire show called Eternal, which of course doesn't exist in the real world, but in their world it does. And it was this big hit show that ran for years, and the show's been over now for 5 years, but they're struggling to figure out where they belong in the acting world, because they want to basically distance themselves from these characters they played and are having a hard time with it. But here's where this differs from Flack. Number one, I did not care at all about these characters. They just seemed like pretentious, entitled D-bags. And the more I watched the show, I watched 2 full episodes, they're like 35 minutes each. It reminded me of Entourage and why I stopped watching Entourage. Like, the first couple of years of Entourage is great because they're, well, maybe not great, but good. Because they're still struggling, and, they're trying to, the one dude's trying to, get his acting chops and whatever, and he's trying to get these roles, and then he gets these big movies all of a sudden, and he becomes this really just a-hole of a person, and then everybody around him, the entourage, all becomes a-holes as well, and by about the 3rd season, I was just fed up. I couldn't do it anymore. That's a lot what this show is like, and not having any knowledge of who these people are. I didn't watch One Tree Hill, never really had much interest, although my buddy Joe and I, since we're doing the OC episodes currently, did talk about how we should probably watch a few One Tree Hills and Dawson's Creek episodes to compare and contrast with the OC. So I guess maybe I'll watch some One Tree Hill at some point. But look, people loved that show. It ran for years and years and years, so God bless. But this obviously is sort of a take on that. They're sort of playing heightened versions of themselves, even though they aren't going by their real names, like Matt LeBlanc in episodes. But they're struggling to make their own identity, and they're going on these horrible auditions. But they're also alcoholics, and they're cokeheads, and they're womanizers, and they're just kind of disgusting people. Whereas in Flack, you really want Robin to succeed because she's so good at her job, and she seems like she wants to be a good person, and just can't really figure herself out because she's too busy focusing on everybody else. These guys are only focused on themselves, and it's much, much more annoying because of that. Maybe if you are a One Tree Hill fan, you'll appreciate this more than I did. I don't know. But it's not like they're doing One Tree Hill bits. I mean, you could basically take anybody sort of in that situation. Like Lisa Kudrow in The Comeback, to name another Friends alum, which was fantastic. Valerie Cherish had a show that was a big hit, similar to a Friends, and she's looking to, break from that and do something different and having middling success. But that was so well written. And yeah, Valerie was a character that was not self-aware, but you did at least root for it, and it was a funny show. It was well written, The Comeback. This is just horrible. I didn't like these characters at all. I didn't even like their friends, the side characters, the girls that would come in and out. It's a mess all the way around. I don't know if I should fail this show, but I was trying to think, like, I can't recommend it for any reason whatsoever. So I think I am going to fail it. Like, maybe if you liked One Tree Hill, you might get some kind of value out of seeing your old buddies being depraved or whatever, but for me, this was a sure miss. Going back to Netflix now, we're going to have Pretend It's a City. This is a 7-part documentary series directed by Martin Scorsese, and it's all about Fran Lebowitz, the noted humorist and author. And this I actually watched all 7 episodes of. I binged it about a week ago. I had some extra time, and I was hooked after that first episode, and so I ended up watching all of them to give it a proper review here, which sometimes I like to do on Netflix. If they have all the episodes, then they're short enough. These are like 23, 25-minute episodes each. I don't know much about Fran Lebowitz, to be honest. I know she is a New York staple. I know she is a New York Jew staple. Being Jewish is a huge part of who she is. And I know that she is, a columnist and a humorist. But I can't say I've ever really, watched her, or read her articles or anything like that. I believe I have seen her on some talk shows. I know she's done Conan a few times when Conan was still filming in New York. And she may have done some other ones. She might have been on Letterman or something. But anyway, it makes sense Martin Scorsese would direct this. Another New York staple of a person. And so, one of her kind of routines, has her talking about Pretend It's a City. So that's where they get the name from. But each episode doesn't so much have a theme. Although it like tries to, but she's Franny Lebowitz, so she just goes in and out of things often, and whatever she wants to talk about, she'll talk about. She is very outspoken and opinionated about a lot of things, and it's a lot of it is things that I don't think people will always agree with. I think some of the things she talks about are a bit controversial. There's some parts in here about the Me Too movement and cancel culture that she talks about that I don't think is going to be everybody's cup of tea. She also talks about, hating certain, things that are going on in this world today, and it does make her sound like sort of an old curmudgeon at times. But what's great about Franny Lebowitz is she knows that it makes her maybe out of touch, but she just doesn't care. This is her opinion. She doesn't have a cell phone. She's never had a computer. She doesn't even have a typewriter. I guess she handwrites everything. So, this is the kind of old-style New Yorker she is. She is, technology-free. She rides the subway every day, what have you. And I think the greatest part of this is hearing her and Marty Marty Scorsese sort of tell stories. Mostly it's her, and he's, laughing, but he'll throw in a couple of lines here or there because, of course, he knows old New York as well, just about as well as anybody still alive, I'm sure. So, the two of them going back and forth is great. The one thing I thought was a little odd is they did show her being interviewed by Spike Lee, Alec Baldwin, Olivia Wilde in different scenarios, right? But it all was like under the guise of a talk show, but it seemed like it was almost the same set every time. Like, was it Fran Leibowitz' own talk show, but she was just the guest every time? I don't know. Because it was like Spike Lee that was at the big desk, and she was in the, in the interviewee's chair. So I don't know where they got those clips. It was not explained. I couldn't even find it online. The Alec Baldwin one I thought maybe was when Alec Baldwin had that ABC primetime talk show, but I don't think it is. So I didn't quite get that. But in an example of Leibowitz's enthusiasm, one of the things she talks about with Spike Lee is sports and how she doesn't care about sports, and she basically questions him and puts him on the spot, like, why do you care so much about sports? Like, you're not on the team, like, what does it matter? Da, 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 da. And they have a little bit of an interesting back and forth conversation, but even in basically saying that he is, an idiot for liking sports and everything, he is laughing, at these things she's saying. And Spike Lee is not known for his, hearty laugh. So, look, he's a New York staple as well. So, of course, I'm sure they've ran into each other a number of times. But it shows her infectiousness. And look, this is definitely not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I can say that for sure. But it involves a lot of really, really interesting conversations, some interesting observations, and I laughed my ass off at much of what was being said here. So again, I'm going to give it with the caveat, it's not for everybody, but for me, this is one of the highlights so far of 2021. I give Pretend It's a City an A. And so finally, we end with The People Puzzler. This is, there's no the, it's just called People Puzzler. But this is a joint venture with People Magazine and Game Show Network. It's a new game show hosted by Leah Remini. And it is indeed, as you might guess from the title and me telling you it's from People Magazine, it is about the People Magazine crossword puzzle. So you have 3 contestants, and they are presented with a puzzle on the big screen, and they say, okay, I want, 2 down. And Leah will give them the first letter of 2 down and a clue. If they can get it, great. They can move on to the next word. If they don't get it, the next person that says 2 down will get a second letter and the same clue. And it will go on and on like that. And then after round 1, the person with the lowest score gets ejected. And we go from there, and then the final bonus, you have to get 3 puzzles in, I think it's 90 seconds or something. And they're all themed puzzles for that. This show is like the idiot's version of Wheel of Fortune. I already think Wheel of Fortune is dumbed down, and I like Wheel of Fortune a lot. But it is one of the easier shows out there. You call letters. I mean, it's Hangman. You call letters, and then if they're there, great. Whatever, you can solve it. But, there's no real knowledge involved with Wheel of Fortune. It's all basically sort of skill and knowing what a phrase is and such. But the People Magazine crossword puzzle, I think, is known for its dumbed-down questions. Like, for example, in this show, the answer is steps. And instead of saying, this is what Rocky, ran up or whatever. In 1977, Rocky Balboa ran up these in Philadelphia. Like, you don't need all of those qualifiers to get us to say steps. But this is what People Magazine is known for. So, it's just the easiest show. And there's been a few of these type of shows already. Like, Wheel of Fortune is sort of similar, but even more similar was Merv Griffin's Crosswords about 15 years ago. And my friend Christine actually was on an episode of that. She did not do very well. But even before that, in the 80s, we had Scrabble, hosted by Chuck Woolery, which ran 2 seasons and actually was a lot of fun, with the different tiles that you could pick and the stoppers and everything. It was, a lot more, not interactive, but there was just a lot more going on with it. This is just for morons, this really is. And Game Show Network originals I can take or leave. I like some of them. I think some of them are a bit faulty, and this one really is not one of their better ones. How is Leah Remini as a host? She's okay. I like her a lot. I think she's hilarious on King of Queens. I think she is fascinating with the Scientology show that she does. But, she's like barbing with the contestants and like putting them down and stuff. And it's like, all right, you can try and make him at ease. Like the one guy says what his job is or whatever, and she like pretends she's falling asleep because he's so boring talking about it. It's like, I don't know. It just seems like you don't need to be that rude to people. Like, I know she's trying to like, do a rapport and do a bit and everything, but for me, it didn't work. For me, not much about this show did work. I think it is a very weak game show. I leave The People Puzzler with a D+. All right, so that will do it. I've kept it about 45 minutes. I try to keep these two about that time frame now. God bless you guys that stuck with the hour-long ones and watched the whole thing, but I know there's a lot of videos out there, and I don't want to take up too much of anybody's time, so that's going to be it for now. Next week, we do have a big show to talk about that just premiered, Walker, the new Walker, Texas Ranger reboot on the CW, starring the one dude from Supernatural. I think it's Jared Padalecki. I don't know what else. I'm sure Netflix has something new for me to watch too, but I think that'll be the big one we'll talk about next week over on the CW. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye.